you make some really good points, like over and over again.
Yeah.
A lot of this really is about asking the right question, in my opinion, because it's really easy to ask the surface question of why
What's
am I
wrong
not
with
getting
me?
enough
Yeah.
money? Yeah, why am I broken? Am I doing something wrong? As opposed to deeper questions that are really attempting to answer why the change is happening more broadly. Yeah, what was that? As a Kettering guy who did car stuff, a question well formulated is half answered. Something like that.
All right, philosopher.
No, that's he did car stuff. He did he did manufacturing things. Just a good quote. But he would this is part of like why he's known and why this quote is known, is because he would go like wouldn't just stop at like the surface question of like, why aren't we producing enough stuff? He's like, no, what's really at the root of this thing? Can we ask 5 questions to get deeper into this? And I think exactly the point that you're making, looking at what you're producing, the type of content that you're producing. Like when you're reading a book or you're watching a movie, in the middle of the movie, you don't think, oh man, I'm so glad that I paid money for this so that the people making it could, benefit from that and get you're involved in the movie. All of that other stuff is gone. Like if the immersion is that deep, that's great. But it doesn't allow in that moment to have that kind of transactional mentality, or like, I want to make sure I'm supporting economically. So I think in those times you have to look at ways that you can augment supplement or maximize the times when the immersion is not there, or other opportunities that exist, because I think you have to accept that as a fact. When you're doing good storytelling, people are going to be immersed, and therefore they're not going to be actively tipping. It's a different thing.
It's really hard and stupid to have the question you're asking, like, what's wrong with me? Why aren't people doing this thing for me that they're doing for other people? Like that's that question.
Well, you can't
like
force
Renee was
people
talking
to
about,
tip.
like that question doesn't make you hurt.
Anything.
Yeah, it's a super toxic way to view yourself. Like, what am I doing? Like, I spent probably a solid 1.5 years just in the worst mental state, just wondering, like, why are my numbers down? What am I doing wrong? Like, I don't understand this. And ultimately, it wasn't that I was doing anything wrong. That's just the ebb and flow of the world that we live in. We can't all just fucking blow up. And it's not like my whole life was over. I just was floating around the middle. And so that is, and
it's like, if you want, like, that question will only make you feel bad. Like, if you ask that question, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, that's just putting you in a really bad headspace. And I've been there too.
I think that trying to answer the wrong question can end up getting you into a bad position too. Like trying to pry bar, your way into getting more tips when you're trying to have the immersive thing can end up like ruining the immersion.
I'll have you know, I started wearing low-cut shirts and people started tipping even less. They're like, nah, get it away. Renee put a shirt on.
Do you have a standing desk, by the way?
I do. I'm standing.
You've been wiggling so much, and I'm just like,
that's why I'm standing. I'm trying to get my steps in.
It could be a rolling stool. You're just sitting on the stool.
Or the ball, those exercise balls.
Exercise balls.
I got one of those. I got a little balancing board.
Nice.
I love to balance between work and play and
oh my god, so fits in the subject.
Honestly, I'm just a really fidgety person in general, so I have a lot of anxiety, so I get it out. Just moving always.
So like one point I want to make that I want to summarize from what's been said so far is, when you're considering making changes, it's a combination of like careful planning and studying what other people are doing. Like if you're trying to switch games, look at people that play, like I give an example of like Warframe, where Warframe, a lot of people play Warframe all the time, except when it's in between updates, the category dies down. What do those streamers go and play? What do they move to? Study, like use other streams as your case studies. Like literally just make it your homework to see like, how do people make these changes? Because like there's so many different examples. Like our experiences are so different than what you guys are going to see or what you guys are facing.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with like how much
either, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I just want to rephrase
yeah.
the question just a little bit. I think more than seeing what are other people like streamers doing is like, what are these communities doing? Because it's not just the streamer, it's actually like minority what the streamer is doing. The majority of it is what is the audience doing? Because
Sure.
yeah, it's like
it's a combo of the two. It's the interplay between those things, I think, because two streamers can make the exact same choice, but because of other underlying factors like personality or how often they make that choice, the types of things that the communities expect, you can get a wildly different thing where one community may have more people show back up and the other one has people disappear for the exact same individual choice. So yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
There's got to be a broader assessment to it than that, and I think that's where the doing your homework and like actually like literally writing stuff down in your observations can become really useful.
Yeah, I think especially when you start streaming, you tend to stop watching streamers especially when you make the transition of like viewer to streamer.
Yes.
I don't watch nearly as many streamers as I'd like to, and that was part of my homework when I did switch to Mixer was doing that. I was like,
Yeah.
I knew I had a couple of friends who were over there, and I watched them pretty regularly, but I didn't do enough homework about like all the other people who are on Mixer. I watched like 2 people, and but so I was like, well, I need to watch like more people, and that's where I started like finding all these like cool tools and cool features and cool ways to engage my community in different ways. That is why they're on Mixer. They're tools that are only available on Mixer, and I that was where I fucked up.
Yeah, there's a real value in humility there, right? Because it's like don't pretend like no matter how, because like you've been rabidly
Never pretend
successful.
that have it all figured
Don't
out.
pretend like you've got all the.
I recently went on a big old Twitter rant on this and got a lot of people pissed.
Yeah.
Because of all these big dogs who are like, well, I don't need to be taught anything. I've been doing this for I knew everything.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't. You know what you knew what you did 6 years ago, but times are
that's not the same
right,
now,
and you may incidentally find yourself being the old guy on the lawn yelling at the kids.
Yeah,
because
I literally have nothing to lose by learning more and keeping your mind open. You've nothing to lose.
And there is a real hazard to that kind of hubris. Like you may absolutely, any one of us may in any industry or in personal life and personal goals be able to point to the ways in which our choices have been successful, but that doesn't mean that they always will be. And it gets to be really difficult and problematic to make that assumption that because it was, it always will be. If you're not willing to extend out and look at the ways that you can learn and adapt from people who are finding new success, new forms of it, then I think you may be stuck.
That's
like especially like
the worst part about being stagnant. Like stagnation isn't something that happens it doesn't just happen to your channel out of the blue. Stagnation happens because you are stagnant. You have stopped wanting to learn. You've stopped wanting to watch new things and do new things like that. Stagnation starts from within when it comes to streaming.
And is an interesting,
I believe so.
I think totally to this point. Now I wish I could talk a lot more about this one in particular. We're running close on time. We got to get to our Q&A. Speaking of which, if you have questions, throw them into the chat so we can start getting to them. But stagnation is worse than I think metric loss. When you're, I think there are ways in which you can sort of, like just sort of treating it like medically or whatever, or in terms of like an arborist. Sometimes there are limbs that have to be cut off and you can view that as a loss, but it's a thing that can save the whole, it's, or trimming or whatever. There are choices that sometimes you can make that will cause people to leave, but in the end, ultimately make you happier, which makes the people who remain happier, which makes new people who come into the channel feel much more at home than when there's a dead chat, when you are bored and miserable. Even if you have higher numbers in that plateaued situation, it makes for a worse experience all around. You're far more likely to lose money.
Yeah, you're really just what's the word? You're just slowing down the inevitable, because that is exactly my story to a T. Like, I was happy where I was, and I was not really doing anything. I was like, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it,
Yeah.
And here I was, and I was stagnant, and I was fine. Like, I was like, well, at least I'm not dropping, but I'm not gaining. But I'm like, well, this is working, so let's do that. But what was actually happening was just I was slowing the inevitable, and then there was a decline. And the decline happened not because I was doing something wrong. It's because I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't doing anything. I was doing the same show that I've been doing since fucking 2011. And that was actually, I mean, to answer like the big question that people always ask me, that is personally why I decided to make the switch to Mixer, was because I needed a fire under my ass to reignite my passion for streaming, and I needed to start from zero, which is just the type of person I am. When I was a kid,
Yeah.
I would get to the last level of Mario or the last world, and then I would reset my Nintendo and never beat that. Like, that is how I've always been. Like, if I find that it's not working, I'm just like, well, let's just start over. And if I can do it again starting over, then I know it's not me.
Well, it sort of creates fertile ground there, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, as
like
opposed to starting from zero and like kind of, you know, we were pioneers back then, and we all made mistakes, and I didn't exactly grow my channel and, you know, not that there's a right way, but, you know, now I get to start from zero and build my channel exactly how I want.
Honestly, that sounds super fun. I play a lot of roguelikes and roguelites.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, it's like a roguelike.
I'm totally into this. I'm like, yeah, okay. Let's start from the beginning again. Only I get to bring a couple of tools with me.
Yeah.
The thing about streaming is like
knowledge that you didn't have before.
Yeah, I mean, with streaming, so much has changed in the last few years, and it's going to continue to change because, it is a game of innovation. So you need to constantly be developing new things. Like, change is so important to actually do and go out and do. And part of that comes back to what we were saying about, like, watching other streamers. Like, you should be looking around and seeing what other people are doing because, like, you know, in a business sense, we are a competition. Like, you know, there are, like, other people doing awesome things, and like you should be looking around and see what other people are doing.
I would disagree with the terminology of competition, because I truly don't think that streamers, I don't think the four of us are in competition. I think we are all our own individual products. And people can buy all four of us if they want the 4-pack.
Yeah.
They just buy one of us, or maybe they buy two of us, whatever. But I think
together.
I think one of the worst things that I did, that the worst mentality I got into, was looking at the streamers as competition, as opposed to resources and knowledge and friendship and people that could actually help me grow, as opposed to things where I'm like, okay, well, how can I do what they're doing but better? It's like,
I think
instead, how can I do what they're doing how can I do what they're doing and adopt it into my own, because I love it so much.
And then have them learn back from
that too. And that's like what I mean by that, right? Like, you don't want to look at everyone like that they're out to get you, or like you have to be better than them, because that's a really toxic mindset.
And that's how you get into the whole like, why are they getting tips and I'm not?
Exactly.
Oh man, the envy is a